let's play a game, Dawn. We're gonna play this game, and here we go. Here's our first reaction. Ready?
Mhm.
Number one. When your client mispronounces balayage.
Say anything. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be like, not quite. You're almost there.
Kind of like a little assuring nod. We try.
Yeah. Interesting. Not quite. Ready? Number two. When your client is 20 minutes late but walks in with a coffee.
Oh.
Can I have that?
Yeah, like kind of like trying to not be pissed.
Yeah. Just son of a bitch. When you see that what your color costs are for the first time, I would do that.
Yeah.
I probably would have been like, holy shit, like
yeah.
super like, what the fuck. Next up, when you haven't finished blow drying yet and the client keeps commenting on how dark it is.
Yeah.
It's the same face. It's the same face. I love it. All right, ready? We got two more. When you ask if they want a cut and they reply, no, just a trim.
Yeah.
Right? Just, it's the same thing. Same thing.
We're still cutting all the hairs.
Hey, we're still cutting your hair. It's a haircut. Yeah. What do you trim your fucking grass? Like what?
That's a good one.
I'm just gonna lightly dust the grass today. It's like you're still cutting the damn grass. Even anyways. Last one. When they swear they haven't box dyed their hair and the test strip says otherwise.
Yeah.
Busted. This is like, now you can leave, right?
Yeah.
We do not pass go. You can just leave the salon now. Thank you very much.
12-hour color correction.
Hey, this is why you need consultations.
100%.
And why you need to charge for consultations.
Mhm.
Like Dawn. All right. That was fun.
That was hard. Like there's so many words I'd want to use with these facial expressions.
I know. I feel like I was like, we were in live person making a TikTok, I think, right there. Like, you have to just, I'm sure it'll turn out great. It's fine. Okay. So to get things started today, first of all, I just want to welcome you, Dawn, here to Bleach, Please, which is our community built for the savvy stylist ready to level up. And I'm just so excited because, I think, Dawn, you were my first exposure to podcasting and YouTube, and just watching you kind of shine really has really paved the way to allowing more of us to kind of get into the space and kind of do that. So I'm excited for this. This is kind of like a reverse thing. I'm usually like on your podcast or talking with you. So now I get to kind of host you, which is super exciting. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we've got a lot of action today. Dawn is filled with knowledge, so we're going to pick her brain on a bunch of things. But to kick it off, I think, Dawn and I have had a history before, really.
We've had history.
Goes way back. I know, actually, yeah. Sounds like we had scrappiness.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't know each other, but we worked at salons that didn't like each other.
Yeah, that's true. The salon I worked at, salon she worked at, hated each other, right?
We both thought we were the best,
I think so, but clearly that didn't happen. Anyways. Right. So I would love to start by just really, let's start off with our story. Let's let people know a little bit more about Dawn and who you are, and then we'll kind of how did you meet me, and then how did it work?
Yeah, I love this, like our love story.
It is our love story.
I mean, my story I could go way too long. And so I never know, like when someone's like, tell me your story, I'm like, do you want like the 30-second version or the 30-minute version? But basically I grew up in a small town, an hour and a half from Saskatoon, where you are. And then went to the big city of Saskatoon for hair school, just for something to do. I didn't know if I wanted to like I was told by my hairstylist not to become a hairstylist if I want to financially like support myself. Like everything was telling me that it was like a cute hobby and like something cute, but nothing like that was really respectable is kind of what I assumed from it. So I went to hair school because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. And I thought, oh, this could be like something fun to do on the side like that. Because once again, it didn't, from what I was seeing from everyone, it wasn't really like a respected profession or like a career choice. And then I ended up really loving it. I got an offer at a job in the city that from a salon that thought it was the best. I mean, no, like it was a really, like, I'm really, really thankful for that place. And then I ended up just being like, oh, I could do this full time and I can make a decent income from it. And so that's kind of how I accidentally became a hairstylist and then traveled around the world because I get bored really easily. Lived in the UK, lived in Australia, came back, became self-employed. Trying to really wrap this up really quickly. And then I don't know when I actually met you for the very first time. Like I want to say it was like I feel like we both left our salons at the same time.
Yeah.
2010 is when I left.
I feel like, yeah, we kind of lived similar parallels there when, you know,
I remember, kind of side note, trying to carry the color line that I wanted that had been using. And they're like, no. And then I found out you were, and I was like, but
I like stirred up the controversy on that, like, because I made this deal with this brand, this Set About brand that I was like, I'm going independent, but if I open a salon within a year, can you let me keep the color? And they said yes. And then it like stirred up a bunch of stuff because people are like, how come she gets it?
Yeah. And I didn't know at the time that you were opening up a salon. And I was like, oh. So I think I probably inadvertently like was annoyed with you, even though it's not your fault because of burning out. I was like, as if what did she do? But
yeah, that's where the history started.
Yeah.
Started out by. And then I think like, I don't know, I think we probably saw each other at workshops, but then all of a sudden I started a second business, which was industry salon tools. Yes. Remember that? And remember you came to my house?
Yes, because I had already moved to Calgary. And kind of was like jumping into the whole Instagram thing. And then, yeah, I came over and you had like such an awesome setup. I still have my pink blow dryer that I got from you.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like, you know, just like Dawn, I think we in our careers, we started like traveling and like representing brands, and she was in Europe and I was doing like New York Fashion Week. And that's where I like saw these tools. And then in Canada, like you cannot get these luxury tools. So I started this distribution company, which was actually the secret love potion to get you to come to my house. And then we got to connect that way.
That's so funny because I remember really like looking at your stuff and admiring you because like fashion show and like high fashion hair is something that was like never that I really admired but like could never see myself doing. And I was like low-key like really envious of like, wow, like look at that stuff. Like I was like, I wish I was into it, but I never. Does that make sense? Like I was like, I don't think I could do it. I think it was like a thing where like I couldn't do that, so I'm just not even gonna try. But like really admiring all this, like the photo shoots you did, and like it was amazing. Well, I think you still do them, don't you? I did our last collection with Salon Scale, and it was like going back to my roots, and I actually cried because it was like so. It was nice to come back to such a, you know, a big part of who I was, but. I feel like the same thing with you too. When I would watch you, your clients, when you moved, a lot of them came to me, which first of all, thanks for sending them to me. Second of all, I needed to up my communication skills because they were used to having the Dawn Bradley. And I remember like people still in Saskatoon still talk about Dawn. Like that's how you focus so much on your communication with the consumer that like you've built everlasting bonds. And like that was something that like I always aspired to be, is like, how do I keep customers that are that loyal that they literally talk about me like after I've already moved away, you know? Yeah. And you did that. And I feel so bad because when I moved, I was so burnt out. I was so tired. I felt like, not that I don't feel like all my clients took advantage of me, but that whole like I taught people how to treat me. So I was like bending over backwards. And you've probably seen, like I did a post about like your excellent customer service, or no, your lack of boundaries is not a form of excellent customer service. So by the time like I left Saskatoon, I love my clients dearly, but I was so scared that I wouldn't actually move that I just never said goodbye. I was like, I sent out an email being like, I'm moving in like 60 days. If you don't have an appointment, I'm so sad I won't see you. Just like peace the F out.
See ya.
Changed my phone number because, and like didn't tell anyone because it wasn't like, I look back and go, oh, that could seem like very harsh and abrupt. Not only to my friends, and like people, but like my clients who all had my number, but I didn't know how to create healthy boundaries. So I just like changed my number, stopped. I didn't really use Facebook even like just a couple of years previous. I stopped using it because of going through a divorce and stuff, but like had no way for anyone to get in touch with me.
And they're like, where did she go?
I'm like starting over now.
Do you ever want to know like what their conversations were after? Like when they went to another hairdresser, like what they would have said?
Oh, I'm sure, like looking at it now, I'm sure they're like, she just disappeared. Like I can think of like a couple who I remember like signing into Facebook like a couple years after I moved here and saw like messages from some and being like, oh shoot. Like I was just so filled with anxiety and stress that I like couldn't handle, like, because I would want to take care of them and I'd want to come back and do their hair. And I was like, I just have to like, and I realize now that I probably hurt people in the process of trying to take care of myself. I can't, like, I just can't even go there because I love my clients so much.
I'm like, let's go. No, I'm like,
actually, I have this.
I'm like, actually, I have a bulletin point to talk about that. No, I'm like,
when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, she had some of these conversations. I don't want to know what this is.
Hey, everyone that came to me was great. Everyone was like, oh, they're done, and you had actually recommended people to me, so that was a good thing. That was already an in, so that helped really, really good.
I knew I could trust them with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just that fear, right? And I think when we talk, like, that's kind of the segue here is we should talk about, for those people that are like in a commission-based salon or in this kind of salon transitioning into solo and going into running your own chair, like there's some major insecurities and fears that happen. And like, we went through that. Mm-hmm. And I remember like being like, can I write my clients' names down? Like, how am I going to get them over? Like, how do I like do this without, I felt like I was like stealing or like being like super intense. Like, and I was so scared to kind of just take this jump. So kind of going into that moment there, when you left, because we both came from highly sought after salons in our city. And we were, high performing stylists in those salons. So what was that moment like when you took the jump, and like, what are some steps you did to get to your chair or to your suite?
Right. Okay. I'm like,
please, everyone in Saskatoon, do not watch this video.
I'm like, can you tell me your demographic of listeners? I mean, okay, yeah, that's exactly where I'm tripping up right now. So I was in a salon, and I've talked about my salon experience before. So I was in a salon where the owner was like, I always wanted to go out on my own. I remember in hair school, like being like, I'm gonna own my own salon in Banff, which is funny because like I'm not in Banff, but like not far from it. Yeah. And like having this whole idea, and like grew up with parents that were self-employed. So I had that like in my blood, I guess. And then I went into a salon where the owner at the time, her name was Tony. She made it too good to leave. She worked with us on everything. Like I remember saying, hey, I want to go to Australia for 6 weeks. And she's like, cool, I want to too. However, I can't have an empty chair for 6 weeks. Like what? But she didn't say no. She said like, how can we make this work together? And she worked with me, and it was too good to not to leave. So when she sold the business, I always say like the new owner came in who had been a colleague, which is another whole situation, because when you've worked with someone as your coworker and you've known them for a decade, you've seen their life happen. I don't want to say that the respect wasn't there, but it was hard. I think it was extra work probably for a boss to come in that was a colleague to try and be there. So that I can't imagine what she went through on her side of things. And then changes that came in no longer made it too good to leave. Does that make sense? So there's nothing illegal, like nothing illegal that like labor concerns, but Tony had treated us so good and valued us and listened to us and put the staff first before the customers and trusted us, that when that shift happened, I was like, I can't be here. And there was a couple incidences that happened where that just that broke the trust, that that broke the trust. And so I had to leave, and so I had to look up for the number one, which was really, really hard. And it was very much a family atmosphere in the salon that we worked on, and I had seen other people. We had 2 stylists that had left, and then like our previous owner had like hired them back a year later. They'd gone to another salon for a year, not liked it, and she brought them back, which is like pretty amazing thing to do.
Yeah.
And so that was with the previous owner. So when I decided to leave, I'm like, you know what? Other people have left. Like, it's always gone so well. I was really excited. And maybe if you need me to like wrap this up, I'm taking
No.
now. And I mean, like, we can go off the record. I can tell you the full story later, but
Yeah, we don't know who the audience is, so we have to censor some of it so it doesn't come back.
Yeah. And I mean, at the same time, I'm telling it from my perspective.
Yeah.
I know my boss at the time would have and it was a couple, they would have their own perspective on things. And being where I am in business now, with having started business and have employees, I have a lot more empathy for where they were at the time. They were doing what they were new to it. They were trying to figure it out themselves. And so, whatever. So yeah, like, I'm not trying to like make someone sound bad. At the time, I was not happy with how things were going. I remember saying like, hey, I have some like exciting but sad news. That's the exact words I used when I went into her office to give her my notice. And she's like, you're having a baby. So at the time I was married, and I was like,
oh,
I mean, kind of like it's a baby in sorts.
And like a business baby.
And like, I'm starting my own business. And I like, like, we can't, like, that whole game that we played, like, you can't hide facial expressions.
Yeah.
And it was at 5 p.m. and I still had like another client. So I went and did my client. And then she pulled me into her office at the end of the day and told me she knows how hard it is to start a business, and she wanted to support me. So instead of working out my 2 weeks, she was going to pay me them out. Completely legal once again, but had never seen it done in the salon. Like, no one else had been left that way. So it kind of was like a shock to my system. Walked me to my station, stood by me while I packed up everything.
Oh God.
Like, didn't let me out of eyesight. Everyone was gone. So I didn't get to say goodbye to any of my coworkers. Once again, like, these are just like emotional things. Once again, it wasn't illegal. This is how the corporate world does it.
Yeah.
And we had a front desk person who was very corporate at the time. So I don't doubt that was kind of an influence, but yeah, that was it. And I had like a recipe card folder of clients. And she kept them because she said it was anything in the salon was salon property. And she had mentioned that she just wanted to, take them to get the colors and would give them back to me. I didn't get them back, but I understand that's how it works.
Yeah.
And yeah, the next morning I went home and I cried because it didn't play out how I thought it would. Yeah. And like, although done like not harshly or meanly, it just was not, I have anxiety. Pretty much everyone, if you don't know that about me already, I have anxiety. So when things throw me off guard, when I'm not prepared, it like throws me for a loop. So I went home and cried. And then I woke up the rest of that week at like 5:30 in the morning, just instinctually. I already had my salon space. I already had access to it. So I, within 4 days, was working out of there. And Facebook was a thing. So I just reached out to as many clients as possible, let them know that I would, honor their appointments. And that's kind of how I hit the ground running.
That's, like, I think, oh my God, I feel like we're experts like at two things. Number one, we're experts at like emotions when we are emotionally like kind of taking care of our customers. So we're always, giving them the upper hand or emotionally supporting that. And then when we talk to like our boss and the people we work with, it's always like we are emotionally connected to people. So it makes it like your deep rooting relationships. It's like, it's so hard to split away because it feels like you're like, cheating on someone or you're ruining the family bond. It's like, it's just so intense. And then the other one is like, we're real good at like charades. So I say like, when you're blow drying, you're like, you can have a full on communication with someone and like all these noises are going on. Mm-hmm. So I think when it comes to leaving the business, it's hard to like keep your face, like not be like, yeah, I'm moving. Like, you're trying not to like, because you're so expressive. Yeah. So when you're expressive and emotion and you're trying to leave a business, oh my God, it's so hard. But just remember, like, I think you can, relate to this is like, you're never doing anything to someone, you're doing it for them. And I think when you left that day, Dawn, I think that business had its own next journey and you had yours, and both of you guys rose from it, and I think the same thing happened to me. Same exact story is like, I was not planning on leaving. I literally went to New York. I saw a psychic. The psychic told me that my business life was going to change dramatically. And I was like a top stylist at the salon. I had no intentions of leaving, but I see this psychic on Halloween in New York. And that person, again, your business is going to change dramatically. Like, you're going to be someone big, and it's like, you need to, and I don't know, I came home and all of a sudden I saw an ad for a new suite that was opening up in Saskatoon. And then literally a week later, I gave my notice. just jumped. And when I went in to tell him, I was like, I felt more like, oh my God, he's going to be so disappointed and devastated. Like I just ruined everything. But sometimes, there's so much more. I think I wanted to be so special for him that he wanted me around forever. But yet when I broke off, I realized that like I was just like a piece of a lot of things that are special to him. So I think that's just like kind of a weird thing. Anyways, he rose, I rose. And I think that's the moral of the story here for both of us, is that like it's always uncomfortable and it's always a hard thing. And it's hard not to wear your emotions on your face when you're trying to give someone that. But if there's anything, what is one piece of advice that you would give someone when they're leaving their salon or starting something on their own? What is one thing that you would give advice that if you could go back and do it differently, what would you do?
Oh, if I could go back and do it differently. I mean, I feel, emotions aside, I feel really proud of how I did it. To be honest, I feel like I kept integrity in a time in my life where I was still very immature. Because business and personal life are so intertwined. To be fully transparent, like I was in the middle of a marriage that was not healthy at all, and the fact that I left, like I took that leap in my business in the middle of something that was like very broken and unhappy. I mean, I don't think I'd do anything differently. Maybe that seems like too much of a padded answer. I think because like I am the kind of person that if I overthink things, I will procrastinate it to death, meaning I'll never do it. I keep thinking of the different kind of ways I could do it. And so like when I see a lot of education out there, which is wonderful, by the way, but it's like, before you go out on their own, make sure you do this, make sure you do this, make sure you have all your ducks in a row. I mean, I didn't know how much it was going to cost me. I found on Kijiji, which I don't think they have Kijiji in the States. So for our American listeners, it's like Craigslist. I found someone wanting to get rid of their lease of their salon. It was 480 square feet. It was $800 a month was my rent. And I was like, I don't know if I can afford it, but I'll make it work. And I just I think there's nothing I do differently, but my advice for someone would be jump before you know how to land. Yeah, because you'll figure it out.
I feel like I would say the exact same thing, which is like, if you try to think you can pre-plan for this, like you'll be sadly mistaken, because the person who you are behind your own business is different than the person you are inside someone else's business. And right? So like, you don't even know who you are.
Yeah, I am the worst employee. The worst. And I remember, so I had a job when I was living in the UK. I worked for the Aveda global headquarters and for I think 9 months, and then I went and worked for an Aveda salon. They were opening up a new location, and I remember one day like sweeping the floor, and my manager was like, "You sweep so slow. Like you were just not like." She was one of those people that was like, and like I didn't have a client, and I'm pretty open with my mental health. I've been recently diagnosed with ADHD, and like learning that about me, where it's like, if something doesn't excite me, my brain physically won't let me do it. And so doing like a mundane task is really hard. And I guess I was like I must have been like sleeping, like didn't have any clients. It was a new salon, bored out of my mind. And she's like, you have no urgency. Like and then basically telling me that I was lazy. And I like really, like, that's something that I think my whole life has kind of like been insinuated, but it's like, well, if something doesn't excite me, like I got to go where the dopamine goes. Right. And so being my own boss, I became this like next level of ambitious and work ethic that I never had before working for someone else's dreams. Now, I mean, there are days where I fantasize about being an employee again though.
Right.
But
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, it's for those days that you want like, a personal trainer or like a coach on you every day being like, what are we going to achieve today? And you can do this, I think
shutting off work, like being self-employed, it's like I just turned off my phone for 9 days and like was unreachable, which was 2.5 years into this new kind of business, the coaching and the mentoring and stuff I've been able to do now, and it felt really good to be able to be like, I need my brain to have a vacation.
Oh, I hear you. I think like that's kind of where I want to kind of take this next conversation, which is about becoming that business owner. And like, because that's the pressure, is like, when you become this business owner, like it's like you're on all the time. So like, when do you take breaks? When do you do this? And like, how are you communicating to customers? How are you communicating to yourself? Like there's so many things that you kind of have to go into. So I think that's when, Dawn and I were saying, which was, before you like just jump, because you're not going to know exactly how these scenarios are. And if you like sit there and try to plant all these scenarios, you'll go crazy. So I always like my big things that I took away from my first business, which was Capelli. I always said there was the 3 C's of Capelli, which is communication, confidence, and conflict. And people would like be like, ew, conflict, such a negative. Why would you have that as your 3 staples? And I was like, because if you're confident and you can communicate, you can get through any conflict. And really, like, whether you want to leave a business, whether you want to have a conflict with a customer, say knowing, setting boundaries, like these are little conflicts, right? So these are the 3 C's that I kind of did as a business owner. So it kind of started when I was independent. And then when I went into salon ownership, I was like, what can I do for my staff to make sure that they could, attach themselves to like three things that can make them feel secure. And so I kind of really taught them about those 3 C's. So really, I'd love to talk about mostly the communication style that you had, because again, I feel like you are so known in the industry for how to get through anxiety, how to get through the communication, because when you are going out on your own for the first time, you now have to be prepared with like a bunch of ways to communicate things, from like people showing up late to, maybe trying to undercut you, to, charging, to pricing, to, boundaries. So let's kind of talk about that. Is what are the communication pieces to deal with those kind of anxieties and frustrations when you start to build your business?
Yeah. And I mean, I want people to know that are listening, like, it's not like some like magical thing that was like bestowed onto me that that was natural. Through like a lot of F ups that I like learned how to do this stuff. And you kind of said it earlier, is one of the things that I teach in my programs is learning the best thing you can do to communicate is to show people you're not doing something to them or at them, but you're doing it for them. And instinctually, we get defensive when we communicate with people, or we react instead of respond. And so being reactive is like, not thinking about it. Responding is like taking a second, thinking about it. And how can we communicate in a way that isn't just, hey, you're getting charged your cancellation fee because you didn't show up, but showing them why the cancellation policy is in place, educating them about it, and why it actually helps them and serves them better. And so really, like, I think that's the core of good communication. Well, the core of good communication is being open and having like dialogue. And I know I wasn't taught that growing up, how to have dialogue and how to have constructive conversations, or even how to disagree with people. And that's been really, really important part of communication. So I think like boundaries is like, you teach people how to treat you. Your boundaries are in place for you to enforce, not for others to respect.
Ooh,
and that's
a good one.
Really, I know, I'm like, I just need to write that down.
Like, repeat that. That was great.
Your boundaries are in place for you to enforce, not for others to respect. Meaning, I see people being like, how come, even actually just this weekend inside of my private Facebook group with my Rock Your Business students, someone being like, do some people just hate boundaries? And I'm like, I mean, none of us like boundaries. Like, why, if we benefit from someone not having boundaries, like the people who don't like your boundaries are the ones that have benefited from you not having them. And so people, as humans, we always go path of least resistance. And I see a lot of times people go, okay, I'm going to have better boundaries. I realize I didn't. This is going to make me healthier. And then how come my clients keep texting me when they have online booking and they know? It's like, well, because we've trained them that way, or you keep answering them. And so you're communicating your boundaries isn't enough. We need to learn how to communicate well, but you have to enforce them, and you have to stand up to them, which is one of the hardest parts, because it requires that confidence piece.
Yeah.
What was in conflict, and what was the other C?
Communication.
It requires those 3 C's. And if you don't have the ability to learn how to continually communicate, if you don't have the ability to be uncomfortable in conflict, or someone just asking a simple question, you're not going to be able to adhere to your boundaries. So boundaries aren't about setting them for people to respect them. They're setting them for you to actually follow through on them. And I can't tell you how many times, like when I switched from clients, this is one example, clients texting me, clients would still text me, and I had to remind them. And I always say, it's like changing a habit.
Yeah.
It takes like 21 days or whatever to create a habit. Or, people, you think of, I use this example and you'll get it because we live in the coldest place on earth. It's like in the winter when the snow gets packed down by the This is such a weird analogy, sorry. The snow gets packed down by cars driving, and you end up with these ruts in the road, right? And so your car like falls in the ruts, and if they don't plow the roads, they get really bad. And trying to get out of a rut is like, oh, you can kind of like, if you have a crappy car, it's really hard, and then you like fall back in. And so it's comfortable and it's worn, and we've kind of gotten these grooves in our business that we've kind of dug ourselves into, and you can get out of them, but it's easy to fall back in them and to stay in them because it takes effort to like, I know it's such a weird analogy, but it's the best one I can think.
No, but it's a good, well, first of all, Donna's known for analogies, and she's also brings out people's analogies. I got another analogy for you.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, this is a good one. Are you ready?
Yes, I love analogies.
So you're now a new business owner, right? Things are going to be more unstable than stable. So what we do is when we start a business, we think, oh, now we're in control. We can control all the outcomes. But your business is almost like a fire. Okay, so it's always on fire. There's always things going on. And what we do is that we tend to choose to focus on the flames, right? When you look at a campfire, you look at the flames. So of course you have anxiety and you're stressing about those things that are right there that are focusing and taking your energy, whether it's a client later, client said this, or you're working extra, or you took on extra days, like, but it's the boundaries of those logs that are on fire that is actually makes up your business. So there's parts of your business that aren't on fire yet. And just anticipate that as those flames grow and as your business grows, there's going to be parts of the log that are going to now become on fire. So that's my analogy of the day, which is, your business is like a fire. You'll always have these issues, and where your focus goes, your energy is going to flow. So sometimes you might be addressing like that moment right then and there, but there's going to be something else as you continue to grow. But see, I told you, pull out those analogies. How fun was that? That was great. That was good.
I mean, my analogies require a lot of imagination at times.
But I'm like, we got fire, we got winter, we got all the analogies here. This is the Dawn and Alicia analogy show.
I love it.
Hey,
side podcast.
Yeah, when's our next show? One thing I learned from you was actually using the word empathy in my communication that helped with setting the boundaries. So like one thing when I learned about like Rock Your Business and everything it does, you always talk about the kindness and compassion and empathy. And I think sometimes people get mistaken to being empathetic to someone is also how do you set a boundary as well as be empathetic. So that's the kind of thing I wanted to kind of dive into is like, I learned the most from there. Can you talk a little bit about being compassionate and empathetic to your communication without crossing the boundary?
I love that you bring that up because that's what I see. And like, that was my greatest downfall. And that's what I see a lot of stylists, they care so much. And I was recently on another podcast where I said like, when clients would be like, oh, like your hours don't work. And I'd be like, no problem. And like, oh, like that doesn't fit my budget. And I'm like, I got you. Like anything they wanted or anything at all, I'd make work for them because I cared so much and their happiness. I was so insecure that their happiness filled up my self-worth. And so I didn't respect myself. I put them first so that it like would fill up this like little insecure Dawn inside. And so how do you have kindness, compassion, empathy for your clients while still taking care of yourself? I think really it's making sure you can understand where they're coming from and let them know. And the example, I work better just using examples and analogies, is if someone really wants something done with their hair, I used to go like, yes, and then like pray to the color gods, like make this work, even though like scientifically it couldn't. And so instead going, oh my gosh, I want that for your hair too. That would look so good. I got to be real with you about the fact that I don't have enough time today, or I don't think I'm the right person to do this for you. Or, like, I don't know if your hair physically can get there today. And so by adding, instead of, in the past, I would just go, yes, because I don't want them to think I'm incompetent.
Yeah.
Or doing it and then disappointing them later, letting them know that I want what they want too. Or when enforcing a cancellation policy, instead of just being like, not charging them because it felt weird and uncomfortable, or the other extreme, which is like, you got to pay now. I definitely did at times. Cause it's like, when you don't have boundaries for so long and you're a people pleaser, you say yes to things you don't want to say yes to. And this resentment and frustration builds up over here. And then all of a sudden you hit a breaking point and people go, and all of a sudden you're like, you've been late so many times, you got to pay. And they're like, wait, where did this come from? I didn't even know about your cancellation policy. It's like, well, it's in your emails in this tiny little print on the bottom of your website, but you've never actually communicated it to people because communication is so uncomfortable. And yet it's so close to us and we know it, we think they should respect it. So instead of just having a calm conversation, we say, yeah, no problem. Don't charge them. This builds up over here. And then we like blow up and clients are like, what the heck? Because they had no idea that this was actually like I don't want to say this. Yes.
Right.
Am I making sense? Am I like going?
No, it's true, because I think what you're saying is like that all that stuff you're like building up, as soon as the next customer displays a little ounce of it, you're going to probably take all this energy out on that one person. And then you look a little off-putting because you just didn't deal with this like thing that you put off to the side, which is
go from one end of the pendulum swings from one end to the next. Where it's like, I got to charge. And I definitely did that. So finding the middle ground where it's like, I need to start telling people about my cancellation policy the first time they ever come in.
Yeah. So,
and having a conversation about it. And then when they are late, I have to go, oh, that sucks that this happened. And like, I always say there's flexibility in things too. But if you need, what's the point of having a cancellation policy if you don't charge it? Whenever I speak at events, everyone's like, yes, I have a cancellation policy. And when I say who enforces it, every hand goes down. Yeah. And so learning how to be like, hey, I respect you as a client. I love having you in and I want to be able to take care of you. I have this policy that we've talked about before in place to protect my business so I can stay open. And so I hate to do this and I don't like doing this, but I am going to have to charge you for your cancellation today. Thank you so much for respecting and understanding. And that way you're not doing something to them or at them, but you're doing it for them. And having them understand that. Not that you won't get pushback, but it'll have people understand on another level and you'll reduce the risk of misunderstanding.
I also like my head just kind of went to like, also just remember, are your clients treating you with kindness, compassion, and empathy too? Mm-hmm. Because the biggest tell to see if this client is going to be an asshole is if they compliment you all the time. Like if they kiss your ass all the time, every time they're like, you're the best. I tell all my friends, you're amazing. I'm keeping you as my secret. Like that person is going to probably try to like keep you all for themselves and then try to control you. So like that's the first stage of manipulation, is by making you feel like, really, really good and validated so that I can control you. So I learned that right away.
Recognize it, it's really easy to see it. Like it's like all of a sudden like people become transparent.
Yeah. Sometimes it is too good to be true when you have a client that comes in as like, you're amazing. Anyways, it can get
at the same time you like know you're being manipulated, but it feels so good.
I know, and you're like, keep manipulating me. This is great.
And I watched this unconscious dance with clients where it was like I'd be like, oh, I can't fit you in, and they'd be like, oh, but you're the only one. And then I'd go, oh, I'd look again. And then I go, oh, actually. And it became this like, as long as they stroked my ego, because I really lacked confidence at the time. And I think this is one thing that people don't realize is a lot of times like cockiness is confused as confidence. And then when you actually have self-confidence, people go, oh, that person's so full of themselves. When it's like, oh, when you actually have confidence in yourself, you don't need that approval from everyone else.
Yeah.
And so it's like, born out of like low ego that I required people to tell me how good I was because I wanted that affirmation. And then when you start to learn to have more self-confidence, people go like thinking, oh, they think they're just a hot shot. And you're like, I worked really hard so that I didn't need the approval of others.
I remember this one lady that was a client of mine, and she was like, oh, like you'll still do my hair even if you're in labor, right? And I was like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. Like literally thought it was a joke, but no, she was dead serious. Like I was like full on still in the hospital. And she's like, what do you mean you're not cutting my hair for a few months while you're off? I'm like, because I had and it was like such a reality check that like she was dead serious this whole time.
Oh yeah.
And she did not care that I had a child. She's like, you like what? I'll come to you. I'll come into the hospital room. I'm like, wow, this is intense.
And it's like, we're all the stars of our own show, right? We're the leading character. And so we all see the world from our own perspective. I've had clients, like I've been sick and they're like, well, can I come to your house to get my bangs trimmed? My dad was having open heart surgery and, he was supposed to get it done. It got rescheduled for like a couple days later. I had to cancel some clients. And I remember a client being like, but my daughter's birthday is this weekend. And then the worst part of it was that I had the gossip come back to me that I don't know if she didn't hear, like I was like, my dad's having open heart surgery, but then like gossip coming back being like, she refused to do my hair for my daughter's birthday, and feeling really hurt because I really liked this client. Being like, I mean, it shows at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to make her a bad person, but we're all looking out for ourselves first and foremost. And I hated having to cancel somebody who wanted their hair done for their daughter's birthday. But I mean, and it was so hard to not work when my dad was like in Edmonton, 4-hour drive away. No, 5 hours from Saskatoon, and I wanted to be with him. And then I felt guilty for wanting to be with my dad when I'm like, this could all, you know, my dad could die on the table. Who knows? Like open heart surgery is like a legit surgery. And so I know my clients weren't trying, and that's where I want to say, like, people don't make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
You choose to feel it, but it's hard to get to that point where you realize that it's not them making you feel that way.
And I think too, that like sometimes it's like those small little conversations that added up. Like it's like you let that person treat you that way over a certain period of time, and then they got comfortable. So then they just like assumed, you know, that they could speak to you that way because it's, you know, it's a behavior after some time together.
There's a deep-seated fear of, I just wanted people to like me. And the thought of people not liking me and talking about me negatively, like that drove me to try and make everyone happy because I didn't want anyone to talk negatively about me.
Oh, absolutely. Because you can have a bad review, right? You couldn't have a bad client because then, you know, you'd lose all respect from all your other ones or any new clients, right?
Especially in like Saskatoon is a small city.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm gonna like
Bleach, please
go to this. I'm gonna put us into a little game, which will be funny, but this is kind of like opposite of what you would do. So,
okay.
So it's a game called What Would You Have Said?
What would you have said? Okay.
So what would you tell me like a scenario of like how Dawn would teach someone to communicate? So tell me a scenario of like a client doing something and then you setting a boundary, what you would teach a person to, but then tell me what you would have really actually liked to say if you weren't like, if there was nothing on the table, you could have said whatever you wanted. What would you have said to that person?
And I'm coming up with a scenario.
Yeah, tell me any scenario that may have happened and then how you dealt with it, and then but what you really wish you would have said.
I mean, I have lots of examples of what I actually said in the beginning, and like my mind first goes to it was before I moved to Calgary. I was in Saskatoon. I was busy and booked out, and like my ego was fed because it felt so good. And I remember being like, okay, I'm only going to do online booking because I can't keep texting back and forth with people. And then I got this text come through that said like, hey, Dawn, this is, I don't know the name, Jessica. I'm friends with Brooke. She referred me. She says, you're the best in the city. Pumped up my tires. Made me feel good, right? Says you're the best in the city, and that if I went online to book, but she said if I couldn't find anything online, that I should just text you. And I got so mad. I don't even know how I responded because I was like, what the, I don't know if I can swear on your podcast. But
oh,
like,
you can swear.
Yeah. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I have online booking for a reason. But I realized in that moment that I had like, I kept, you can't find a place online, I'll fit you in. And so I and then it was the breaking moment of like a client who had never seen me had been told by a client of mine, oh, like if she can't find online, she'll just squeeze you and just text her. And so I'm sure I like very passively aggressively was like, you need to book online. Like, bitch, please, come on. Like, no, I don't know you. Why would I squeeze you in? That's kind of probably what I wished I would have said. I'm probably like now, I don't know. I wish I knew how I responded, but now I'd be like, oh, thanks so much for reaching out. I actually don't book people in via text. So the soonest opening online would be what's available. Can't wait to meet you.
There it is. I have a funny story. So I had someone reach out to me and was like, again, hey, Alicia, like I, found you from a friend and she told me to just DM you. And that like, I've always wanted to get my hair done by you, but like, I can't get in, blah, blah, blah. And I just left it on read, but like, I just didn't know what to say. So I just left it for a few days. And then I get this message back. It was like, who the F do you think you are, Beyonce? Like, and like, she just like went out on, she literally was like, what do you think? You're some celebrity stylist, blah, 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 blah. So then I responded, I was like, well, you're the one that reached out and said I was the best. That literally was my response. And I was like, best of luck finding a stylist, send. It was like, what you shouldn't do, I did. But I was so tired of like someone like this, like thinking that I was like, yeah, I guess I am Beyonce of hair. Here we go. But no, I probably should have handled it differently, but.
What did they hope would happen after they be so mean? Like,
well, come on. And I just like, yeah, it was like 2 days later. She's like, what do you think you are, Beyonce? I was like, yeah, get bent.
Oh my God, how did you know?
Oh my God. But no, I'm like, I probably should have had like some auto response, but like, at that point you just have to like, ooh, like you have to laugh. It's humorous. And maybe if I think about this now, that's what I said. I did the opposite, but what I would do differently if that was ever, I just wouldn't respond and let's see how many times she would have just like messaged me back.
I was like the Beyonce gif.
Yeah, that would have been so funny. Oh, that would be good.
That's
my God.
A worksheet that I have inside my program for my students where I'm like, write down what you wish you could respond because you need to get it out.
Yeah.
But don't do it. I've been very close to like, I've been writing what I wish I could respond in the response. And then if you accidentally press send, you're hooped. So like get all the nasties out, some like open up your notes and write out what you wish you could say. Cause it's good to just like get it out.
Well, I know, I think like, I mean, as I segue this into salon scale conversation, I feel like that's what we're getting a lot from people right now is like even having how to have these conversations with these customers, especially when it comes to like pricing and all that stuff, because when you are having to set the price and do all that stuff, that's the number one thing we're hearing from people right now. People are reaching out was like, how much is that? And then there's this anxiety, like to even say what your price list is or like how to charge this. And that right there just kind of like is the thing that we've been working the most with people. But that's something that I kind of would love to pick your brain on is that, how do you deal with like, even when it comes to around pricing and a conversation around that. Now, when we talk about that, if someone reaches out and like literally cold DMs you and is like, hey, I saw on your page you do this, like how much is it? And they start to bargain price you, like what would be the boundary you would set at that time?
I mean, now, so in 2016, I enforced custom consultations. So I wouldn't give quotes out. So over online, I would say like my prices are listed on my website, have a look. And for new clients, I require custom consultations so that I can make sure I give you a quote specific to what you're wanting done. And then I'd like the whole kindness, compassion, empathy. Like the reason why I have this in place is to ensure that I see your hair, touch it, know your hair, so that I can give a quote that actually, the last thing I want to do is overpromise and underdeliver. And it weeds, like it meant there were some people that's like, I'm not paying to come and just talk to you. Okay, cool, bye. Yeah. And then there's people who are like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for someone that'll actually sit down and listen. And so that's how I kind of started, like from like, I get the DMs of like how much and like a picture from Pinterest.
Yeah,
like, what do you mean? Like, how much did this person pay? Like, how many highlights? Like, so weird.
Who are you?
And then being like, well, I don't know. And really it's hard not to be annoyed, but we need to remember as professionals, we're educated. And so we know what is required. Like we know the information that we need from someone, but they don't as the consumer. They just think, can't you just put this color on my hair and done? It's not, they don't realize how customizable it is. So I had to learn to find that compassion piece of like, this person doesn't have the education and knowledge I have as a hairstylist, and I shouldn't expect them to. So have my moment of being annoyed and then educate them being like, oh, I wish I could give you a price. I can tell you what my prices start at. The reason why I can't give you a direct quote, and I know some people do it through DMs and through pictures, but I'm like, I need to see your hair to ensure I can like see it, do a test strand, and really be able to give you a quote and an expectation. Because the last thing I want to do is say something's achievable and then see your hair in real life in different lighting than this picture, or realize the picture you sent me was from 6 months ago and you've done something to your hair, or it looked like it was all that. You know what I mean? Like there's just too many variables that I refused to go there in DMs and required people to meet me in person.
And I bet, like on the topic of sticker shock, I bet you that all dramatically decreased once you communicated before what it was going to cost and had that kind of understanding before you committed to something.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, I found like a niche of clients that I wanted to work with, and my success rate went up with people overall happy. The amount of redos coming in decreased significantly. And not because my skill or talent changed at all. It was because I learned how to communicate more clearly and be less of a people pleaser, which is really a people disappointer, because people say yes in the beginning to defer disappointment.
Yeah.
And you just disappoint later. Where if you learn to kind of disappoint in the beginning, meaning I want this for your hair, I can't guarantee it. Even if I've done your hair 10 for 10 years, medications, hormones, like everything can change from one appointment to the next. So I'm really transparent about, I can't guarantee it ever. And I've had clients be like, should I go somewhere else? I'm like, I mean, this is something that should be standard in our industry because our internal health changes constantly and we're working on something that's affected by it. You as the client are the variable every single time in the equation. And so I can have all the knowledge, all the skill, all the talent, and I still need to leave room and be open and honest about the fact that I can do everything right and something can change in you that can change the whole thing. And I tell them not to scare them. Like when I'm saying it to them, I'm not here to scare you, but I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't educate you on this part. Because 9 times out of 10, we're fine. But for that 1 time out of 10 that's happened to me once in my 20-year career, I wished I would have let them know ahead of time. So I don't want to have to backpedal if something goes sideways. I want you to know up front. And I use examples about like, I had laser eye surgery and I had to like say, I'm like, check mark saying like, there's a chance I could go blind. And I was like, I mean,
yeah.
And they're like, it's a risk that exists, so we have to cover our butts, but it's really minimal. And if it was a high enough risk, we wouldn't do it. And that's the thing I say to my clients too. Like, if the chemical risks of color services was high enough, no one would color hair. It's minimal and it exists and it does happen, not very often. But I need to do my due diligence as a professional for you to know, so that if something were to go sideways, you're not thinking it's me and a lack of skill or talent or knowledge.
I love it. No, I'm like, guys, I think a consultation is like your assessment on like who the consumer is. Like, is this person wanting a bargain, a deal? Does this person want luxury? Does this person, like, what kind of persona is that person? So I think you're right on that. Is like, we don't really have like a funnel process where every day we're attracting, we kind of have an array of customers, you know, and there's some of us that are specializing and starting to really narrow this funnel process in, making sure that we're like, we only take, you know, blondes, or we specialize in this, and it starts to come more narrow, which makes it easier, a little bit easier to communicate because you specialize. But like the worst case is like, you know, I always say like, if someone came into your store and like, they really wanted to just shop the bargain section, but like someone was trying to sell them like their most expensive stuff, like it's a little off-putting. And then all of a sudden, like we get attitudes and we get like, well, I don't want to pay that much. I was here for that. So that's why, and then you're face-to-face, right? So like, it's really important to make sure that you have clear communication, and make sure that you can assess who the customer is. Maybe they need some time. Maybe it's like, hey, come in and here's all the stuff I have to offer. That's why, like when you were saying that, Dawn, here's my menu, here's my pricing, take a look around. If it looks familiar and you want to continue on, then I will deal with you. Yeah. But you can't just expect everybody coming to you is actually your customer or someone that you want to keep, you know, servicing. So I think that's like a really cool kind of thing about really consultations and customer relations, and how to just really make sure you're valuing your worth, and like kind of tying it back to having the communication and the confidence and the conflicts, and really, you know, dealing with the anxiety of telling who you are behind the chair and what you want, and how much you're pricing, how much you're charging, and all the fun things to salon ownership.
Well, and all being kind of okay there with not being for everyone. Yeah. Like being okay. Were you on Misty Jane's podcast just recently? Did I hear? I think I was
on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, you want to get no's.
Yeah.
You want to get, is that I'm maybe taking this quote from somewhere else, but like being okay with someone being like, I don't want you as my stylist. And the insecure person that I used to be, like, no, I gotta be for everyone and I want to make everyone happy. But when I like set up this process, being like, I remember getting a DM from another hairstylist being like, who do you think you are charging for consultations? I'm like, I mean, I'm Dawn Bradley, bitch, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm Beyonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Dawn Bradley.
Like, why would a hairstylist be upset? It means they'll probably be busier because I'll have less clients coming to me.
Yeah, just because you wish you would have charged for your consultation.
I mean, it was an accidental marketing hack that I did. I did it to slow down my business and it exploded.
Well, honestly, that was like the most brilliant thing you've done. And then, well, Okay, you've done many things. And then on top of that, you've built an incredible coaching program that has helped people deal with anxiety and deal with the communication process. And, like we've been kind of talking about today, which is, going out on your own and becoming a business owner, you're going to have all these like things that you have to communicate and solve, and then all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start to wrap us up here, but what I would love to talk to you about is what is up and coming with Dawn. How can people, like, what can they get out of coming to Rock Your Business or any other coaching programs that you have going on? How can people find you, and what is coming up with you?
Well, you can find me on all social media platforms at Dawn Bradley Hair. Got YouTube, Instagram mainly, and Facebook. But yeah, if like, I just see like such a need in our industry of people, there's so much education out there that tells you what to do and how to do it, but not from an emotional standpoint. And it's really easy to know what to do. And yet so many of us find ourselves standing like, I know what to do, but there's this like invisible wall that's keeping us. And that's how my education is different, is it's not just going to tell you what to do, but it's going to actually help you do it. From a place where you feel good about it. Because it's one thing to know what to say to your client, another being like, I feel like a total jerk saying this, or I feel really bad. And so it helps tap into that place where that anxiety might pop up, that imposter syndrome, that fear of being misunderstood, that fear of losing all your clients, and helping you navigate through these changes in your business to help your business be better, to help people more. Because I know that most of us that are in this world aren't just about doing good hair, it's about caring for amazing people. And so that's where my education is all based around. And new and upcoming, I mean, I feel like as like someone with ADHD, it's always like there's something new and but
Squirrel.
Yeah, but most recently I put together a free workshop to help with the communications side of things, and to help not have no-shows and late cancels and things like that. So if those listening are interested, you can go to dawnbradley.com/workshop. And it does, like, it will give you a deal on my Rock Your consultation program as well, but it's a completely free workshop that you can sign up for and watch anytime. So
Good.
That would be like the one thing right now that I want to help, because coming out of this, I don't know when this is airing, but coming out of this last year and a bit of crazy pandemic time, we need to know how to communicate and have boundaries that serve us and serve our clients. Because the last thing I want for anyone is to learn to put boundaries up and accidentally push people away. And that's what happens when we set boundaries, but we don't know how to adhere to them ourselves. And so I want to help reduce the pendulum swing and help land you in the middle with this workshop.
So good. Well, I know that the industry thanks you. I thank you. I love our friendship and our partnership. And I know that truly we are just trying to help plant the seeds in the next generation to be successful and to not have these emotional restraints, and to be able to tap into your why, your purpose, and to lead with, again, compassion, empathy, and kindness. I just want to thank you, honestly, again, Dawn, for everything that you do. You tirelessly work to try to elevate this industry, and I know that it doesn't go unnoticed. And yeah, I think that you're leaving this industry better than you found it. So thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you. Likewise, I'm so glad that we've connected again and again and again.
Forever. It's a bond that won't go away. We've found each other. It's good. Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining our podcast /vlog /YouTube thing called Bleach, Please. But I just want to say again, I can't wait to see you, and we're both excited to bring you back again one day, and we'll chat some more.
Awesome. Thanks.